The massive command ship Dominion's Edge drifted through the dark space between stars. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in weapon ports and armor plating that could withstand the blast of a small sun. Inside the ship's war room, Admiral Vextar stood before a holographic display showing star maps of the Outer Rim territories. The Admiral was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms that moved like flowing water. His species, the Hegemony, had conquered 17 star systems in the past decade. They were proud of their advanced technology and military might. To them, most other species were just obstacles to be removed or slaves to be collected. "Report," Vextar said in his cold voice. His lower arms crossed behind his back while his upper arms gestured at the display. Sub-Commander Zenth stepped forward. He was younger than the Admiral, with darker blue skin and nervous movements. "Sir, we have lost contact with 3 more patrol groups in the past week. All were investigating disturbances in sectors 7 through 12. "Disturbances?" The Admiral's eyes narrowed. They were large and black like pools of oil. "What kind of disturbances?" "Unknown attackers, sir. The patrol groups reported brief contacts before their signals went dead," some survivors described. "Fast-moving ships that appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly." The Admiral walked around the holographic display. The stars rotated slowly as he moved, showing the vast area of space they were discussing. Red markers indicated where their ships had vanished. There were too many red markers. "Show me the attack patterns," he ordered. The display changed. Now it showed the movements of the unknown attackers over several months. The pattern looked random at first, but Vextar could see something else. The attacks were getting bolder. They were getting closer to important Hegemony supply lines. "Sir," another officer spoke up. This one was older, with scars across his face from many battles. "Intelligence suggests these might be human raiders." The war room fell silent. Several officers looked uncomfortable. Others tried not to laugh. Admiral Vextar turned slowly to face the scarred officer. "Did you just say humans, Commander Krell?" "Yes, sir." The attack patterns matched some old reports from the frontier regions. Small groups, hit-and-run tactics, use of modified civilian ships as weapons. Humans. The Admiral spoke the word like it tasted bad. "Commander Krell, how long have you served in this fleet?" 23 years, sir." "And in those 23 years, have you ever seen a human?" Krell hesitated. "No, sir." "But the reports are stories told by frightened colonists and drunk spacers in cantinas." Vextar's voice grew louder. "Humans are legends, Commander. Ghost stories. Tales of some mythical species that supposedly fought back against impossible odds." He moved to the center of the room, his forearms spreading wide. "Let me tell you about humans, officers. According to these legends, they come from a world called Earth, a world that was supposedly destroyed years ago. These imaginary humans are said to be violent, unpredictable, and clever beyond reason." Several officers chuckled. The tension in the room began to ease. The stories say humans can survive in any environment. That they turn everything into a weapon? That they never surrender, even when defeat is certain? Vextar paused for effect. "Does this sound like any real species to you?" "No, sir," came the chorus of replies. "Of course not. Real species have limits. Real species can be conquered. Real species know when they are beaten." The Admiral returned to the star display. "What we are dealing with here is probably some group of pirates using human legends to frighten their victims. Nothing more." "Commander." Krell looked like he wanted to say something more, but he stayed quiet. Sub-Commander Zenth spoke up again. "Sir, what are your orders regarding the missing patrol groups?" "Double the patrols in those sectors. Send out our best hunter-killer groups. When we find these pirates pretending to be mythical humans, we will show them what real military power looks like." "Yes, sir." As the meeting continued, Admiral Vextar felt confident in his assessment. The Hegemony had conquered species far more advanced than any primitive humans could be. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could stop almost any attack. Their soldiers were trained from birth to fight and die for the Empire. What could a bunch of pirates in stolen ships possibly do against such power? Meanwhile, in a hidden asteroid base thousands of light years away, Commander Ji-won sat in her command center watching multiple screens at once. The screens showed ship movements, supply reports, and communication intercepts from across human space. Ji-won was not tall, but she carried herself like someone used to being in charge. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style that stayed out of her way during long work sessions. Her dark eyes moved quickly between the displays, taking in information and making decisions. "Commander," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Hyun-woo approaching with a datapad in his hands. He was her tactical officer, a thin man with careful movements and a mind that could process battle statistics faster than most computers. "What do you have for me, Hyun-woo?" "The latest reports from our scout ships. The hegemony is increasing patrols in sectors 7 through 12. They are also moving 3 battle groups closer to our territory." Ji-won took the datapad and studied. The numbers, they were not good numbers. "How many ships?" "Approximately 200 warships in the advanced groups. Intelligence suggests they have at least 50 more battle groups in reserve." "And our forces?" Hyun-woo hesitated. 47 combat-capable ships spread across 8 sectors. Most are modified civilian vessels with jury-rigged weapons. Ji-won set down the datapad and rubbed her temples. The headache that had been building. "Old day was getting worse. So they outnumber us roughly 50 to 1, yes, Commander. And their individual ships are larger and better armed than ours. Technology comparison? Their shields are stronger, their weapons have longer range. Their hulls can take more damage." Hyun-woo paused. "In a straight fight, we would lose quickly." Ji-won stood up and walked to the large window that looked out into the asteroid field. Hundreds of rocks drifted in space around their hidden base. Some were natural asteroids. Others had been carefully shaped to hide weapon platforms and sensor arrays. "Good thing we are not planning a straight fight," she said. Hyun-woo moved to stand beside her. "Commander, the odds are very bad. Even with our advantages in mobility and surprise, the numbers are overwhelming." "I know." Ji-won watched a supply ship carefully navigate between the asteroids. "Have you ever heard what Admiral Vestan is saying?" "About us? Some reports from our intelligence network? He thinks humans are just legends. Myths and ghost stories told by frightened spacers." Ji-won smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "He believes we cannot possibly be real because our capabilities sound too incredible to be true." "Perhaps that is an advantage. If he underestimates us, oh, he definitely underestimates us." Ji-won turned back to the command center. "The question is whether we can make his mistake cost him everything before he realizes how wrong he is." She picked up the datapad again and studied the ship movements. The hegemony was confident. Their formations were textbook perfect but predictable. They moved like a force that had never faced serious resistance. "Send word to all sector commanders," she said. "Operation Ghost Fleet begins in 72 hours. Make sure our people understand the plan." "Yes, Commander." "And if the Admiral realizes that humans are not just legends?" Ji-won looked at him with steady eyes. "Then we make sure the last thing he learns is that some legends are real. And some legends have very sharp teeth." 3 days after the War Council meeting, Admiral Vestan stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the final preparations for the invasion. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation around the Dominion's edge. Each ship was a masterpiece of hegemony engineering, bristling with weapons and protected by shields that could deflect almost any attack. "Admiral," Sub-Commander Zenth reported, "all battle groups are in position. We are ready to begin the operation. Target status? Kepler 442b, a mining colony in the asteroid belt. Intelligence reports approximately 5,000 humans living there. They have basic mining equipment and a few civilian cargo ships. Number: military installations detected." Vestan nodded with satisfaction. This would be a perfect demonstration of hegemony power. A quick, clean victory that would discourage any other pirates from pretending to be mythical humans. "Begin the attack. All ships, standard subjugation pattern. Disable their communications first, then their ships. We want prisoners for questioning. The hegemony fleet moved forward like a metal storm. Their ships spread out in a wide net, surrounding the asteroid field where the human colony was located. Energy readings showed exactly where the humans had built their mining stations and living areas. Everything proceeded exactly as planned for the first 10 minutes. At the Kepler 442b mining colony, Minho watched the alien ships approach on his scanner display. He was a short, stocky man with hands that were permanently stained from years of working with machinery. Before coming to this asteroid, he had been an engineer in the Earth military. Now he was officially the colony's chief mechanic. Unofficially, he was much more than that. "They are coming in standard attack formation," he said into his communication device. "Just like we expected. All stations, this is Minho. Execute defensive plan Gamma. Remember, let them get close. We want them to think this will be easy." Around the asteroid field, things began to happen that the hegemony scanners did not detect. Cargo containers that looked innocent started to unfold, revealing hidden weapon systems. Mining charges that appeared to be simple explosive devices began moving into strategic positions. Ships that looked like harmless or haulers powered up engines that were far more powerful than any civilian vessel should have. The hegemony advanced guard reached the outer edge of the asteroid field. Their leader, Captain Vorth, felt confident as he studied his targeting displays. The human colony looked exactly like intelligence had predicted. Weak, undefended, helpless. "This is Captain Vorth to all ships. Begin bombardment of the communications array. Then target their ships. Standard intimidation protocol." His ship fired first. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out toward what appeared to be the colony's main communication dish. The beam struck its target and exploded in a shower of sparks and metal debris, but instead of going silent, the colony's communication channels suddenly filled with chatter. "Direct hit on decoy array Alpha. All stations, they have taken the bait. Mining. Charges in position, ready to deploy. Cargo ships Delta through Kappa begin conversion to attack mode." Captain Vorth stared at his communication officer. What are they talking about? Conversion to attack mode? His question was answered when the cargo ships suddenly revealed their true nature. Hidden panels slid away to expose railguns, missile launchers, and energy weapons that definitely did not belong on civilian vessels. The ships that had looked slow and helpless suddenly accelerated with speed that matched military fighters. "Evasive. Action." Captain Vorth shouted, but it was too late. The first railgun shot punched through his ship's shields like they were made of paper. The projectile, a chunk of metal accelerated to incredible speed, tore through his hull and exploded inside his engine room. Alarm screamed as his ship began to lose power all around the asteroid field. The same thing was happening to other hegemony ships. What had looked like a simple mining operation revealed itself to be an elaborate trap. Asteroids that appeared natural suddenly lit up with weapon fire. Hidden missile platforms emerged from camouflaged positions and launched devastating attacks, but the most shocking surprise came from the mining charges. Minho had spent months modifying the standard explosives used to break apart asteroids. Instead of simple chemical explosives, he had turned them into guided missiles with nuclear warheads. When the hegemony ships moved into the perfect positions, he triggered them all at once. The explosion lit up space like a new star. 12 hegemony ships vanished in an instant. Others were thrown off course, their shields overloaded and their hulls cracked. The careful formation that had looked so impressive moments before was now a scattered mess of damaged vessels and floating debris. Captain Vorth's ship was still functional, but barely. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across his bridge as his crew tried to restore basic systems. "Report," he demanded. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. Shields are down to 12%. Engine power at 30%. His tactical officer's voice was shaky. "Sir, we have lost 8 ships completely. 15 more are heavily damaged." "How is this possible? They are just miners." "Sir, I am reading military-grade weapons throughout the asteroid field. These are not mining tools. These are ship killers. On his scanner, Vorth could see the human ships moving with precision and skill that spoke of extensive military training. They struck quickly and then disappeared behind asteroids before his ships could target them effectively. It was like fighting ghosts. Send a message to Admiral Vexstar. Tell him we need reinforcements. Immediately. But when his communication officer tried to send the message, he discovered another unpleasant surprise. The humans were jamming all long-range communications. The advanced hegemony fleet was cut off from their command ship, back on the Dominions. Edge, Admiral Vexstar was reviewing supply reports when Commander Krell burst onto the bridge. Admiral, we have lost contact with the advance force at Kepler 442b. Vexstar looked up from his datapad with mild annoyance. Probably just communication problems. Those asteroid fields can interfere with signals. Sir, the last transmission we received was a distress call. Captain Vorth reported they were under heavy attack by military-grade weapons. Military weapons? At a mining colony? The Admiral's voice showed his disbelief. Commander, you are letting these human ghost stories affect your judgment. No doubt the miners had a few old ship guns for protection against real pirates. Admiral, the transmission was cut off mid-sentence. We have heard nothing for 2 hours. Vexstar considered this. A complete communication blackout was unusual, but not impossible. Send a reconnaissance squadron. Tell them to investigate and report back. The reconnaissance squadron arrived at the Kepler 442b asteroid field 4 hours later. What they found? There shook them to their core. 20-3 hegemony ships drifted in space, dead or dying. Some were completely destroyed, nothing left but scattered debris. Others were intact but powerless, their crews either dead or unconscious from life support failures. The human colony was completely gone. The asteroids where they had been living and working were empty. It was as if the entire population had simply vanished into space. The reconnaissance commander, Captain Thale, sent an immediate report back to Admiral Vexstar. His message was brief and disturbing. Admiral, the advance force has been destroyed. 23 ships lost. No sign of human casualties. The enemy has disappeared completely. They are not in the asteroid field. Repeat, the humans are gone. No trace of where they went. When Admiral Vexstar received this message, he stood silent on his bridge for a full minute. His officers waited nervously for his response. Finally, he spoke. That is impossible. A mining colony cannot destroy a military force. There must be another explanation. But deep in his mind, a small voice was beginning to whisper that perhaps Commander Krell had been right. Perhaps humans were not just legends after all, and if that was true, then the hegemony might have made a terrible mistake. Admiral Vexstar paced across the bridge of the Dominion's edge like a caged animal. The report from Captain Thale sat on his command table, but he had already read it 5 times. 23 ships destroyed. An entire advance force wiped out. By what should have been helpless miners. It has to be a mistake, he muttered to himself. Some kind of trap set by real military forces. Sub-Admiral Kreith approached cautiously. Kreith was younger than Vexstar but had earned his rank through brutal efficiency in previous campaigns. His pale blue skin was marked with ritual scars that showed his dedication to the hegemony cause. Admiral, the fleet commanders are requesting new orders. Should we proceed with the invasion or investigate further? Vexstar stopped pacing and turned to face him. Sub-Admiral, in your expert opinion, is it possible for civilian miners to destroy 23 military vessels? No, sir, it is not possible. Then clearly we are not dealing with civilian miners. Someone has fed us false intelligence. Someone wanted us to believe we were attacking a helpless colony when in fact it was a military base. Kreith nodded slowly. That would explain the defensive preparations and the advanced weapons. Exactly, Vexstar felt his confidence returning. Some enemy government has established a secret military outpost in that asteroid field. They used human legends as cover, making us think we were dealing with mythical creatures instead of real soldiers. Which government, sir? Does it matter? Whoever they are, they will learn that the hegemony does not tolerate resistance. Vexstar moved to the tactical display and began pointing at star systems. I want you to take battle groups 7, 9, and 12. That is 150 ships. Destroy everything in the outer rim sectors. Leave no doubt about our power. Yes. Sir, what about prisoners for questioning? No prisoners. Whatever government is hiding behind these human stories needs to understand that defying the hegemony has consequences. 3 days later, Sub-Admiral Kreith led his massive fleet toward the outer rim. His ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. This time there would be no surprises. This time they would bring such overwhelming force that resistance would be impossible. But in a hidden command center on a moon orbiting a gas giant, Soyan was watching the alien fleet approach and smiling coldly. Soyan had been a refugee when Earth was destroyed. She had escaped on one of the last ships to leave the dying planet, carrying nothing but her knowledge and her burning desire for revenge. In the years since, she had become the chief strategist for all human resistance operations. She was not tall, but her presence filled any room she entered. Her black hair was streaked with early gray from years of stress and sleepless nights. Her eyes were sharp and calculating, always looking for the advantage that could turn defeat into victory. Taeyong, she called to the man standing beside her. Are our people in position? Taeyong was everything Soyan was not. Where she was calculating, he was passionate. Where she planned in silence, he inspired with words. The scattered human survivors had followed him not because they had to, but because they believed in him. All sector commanders report ready, he said. The fleet is spread across 7 star systems. Everyone understands the plan. Good, the aliens are bringing 150 ships this time. They think overwhelming numbers will solve their problem. Will it work? That is a lot of firepower. Soyan studied the tactical display showing the movement of both fleets. The alien ships were moving in predictable patterns, following standard military doctrine. The human ships were scattered seemingly at random, looking like refugees fleeing. In panic, numbers only matter if you can use them effectively, she said. We are going to teach Sub-Admiral Kreith that sometimes the hunter becomes the hunted. The first part of her plan activated when the hegemony fleet reached the Vega system. Kreith's ships spread out to search for human bases, dividing their forces to cover more territory. This was exactly what Soyan had hoped for. When the alien ships were spread across the system, seemingly random cargo vessels began appearing throughout the area. The ships looked like civilian refugees trying to escape the invasion. Kreith's commanders followed standard procedure and moved to intercept them. But these were not refugee ships. As soon as the hegemony vessels came within range, the cargo ships revealed hidden weapons and opened fire. Each attack lasted only seconds before the human ships disappeared again. Using experimental cloaking devices stolen and improved from alien technology, Captain Renth commanded one of Kreith's destroyer squadrons. He was pursuing what looked like a damaged human freighter when his tactical officer suddenly screamed a warning. Captain, I am reading massive energy buildup from the target. The freighter spun around faster than any civilian ship should be able to move. Its cargo bay doors opened to reveal a weapon that definitely did not belong on a merchant vessel. The energy blast that followed punched through Renth's shields and tore his ship in half. Before any other hegemony ships could respond, the human vessel vanished from their sensors as if it had never existed. The same thing was happening throughout the Vega system. Human ships would appear, strike hard, and disappear before the aliens could fight back. Kreith's forces found themselves chasing ghosts while taking heavy casualties. All ships maintain formation. Kreith ordered over the communication channels. Do not pursue individual targets. But his order came too late. His ships were already scattered across the system, and the humans were using that against them. Small groups of alien vessels found themselves surrounded by enemies that appeared from nowhere. In the Altair system, Commander Voss was leading 6 ships in a search pattern when his sensors detected a large human fleet directly ahead. Finally, a chance for a real battle instead of this ghost hunting. All ships, attack formation. Let us show these humans what real military power looks like. His ships accelerated toward the human fleet, weapons charging and shields at full power. But as they got closer, something seemed wrong. The human ships were not moving to meet them. They were not even trying to escape. They just sat there in space like they were waiting for something. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "I am getting strange readings from the human ships. Their energy signatures do not match any known vessel types." Commander Voss was about to ask for more details when his ships flew directly into Soyan's trap. The human fleet was actually a collection of hollow metal shells with powerful transmitters inside. They looked like ships on sensors but were actually decoys. The real human ships had been hiding behind a nearby asteroid, waiting for the aliens to position themselves perfectly. When Voss's ships reached the decoys, 20 human vessels emerged from concealment and opened fire from point-blank range. The alien ships, caught completely off guard and surrounded, were destroyed in less than 3 minutes. Similar traps were springing throughout all 7 star systems. Soyan had spent weeks positioning her forces and preparing false targets. Every time the hegemony ships thought they had found the human fleet, they found decoys instead. Every time they thought they were chasing fleeing refugees, they were actually being led into carefully prepared ambush. Sub-Admiral Kreith sat on his command bridge receiving report after report of losses. In 6 hours of fighting, he had lost 47 ships while the enemy casualties remained unknown. His forces were scattered, confused, and demoralized. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we are receiving messages from ships throughout the fleet. Many commanders are requesting permission to withdraw and regroup." Kreith stared at the tactical display showing the chaos of battle. Red markers indicated his lost ships. There were so many red markers that they almost covered the display. "How many ships do we still have operational?" 103, sir, but many of those are damaged." "And human casualties?" "Unknown, sir. We have not been able to confirm. Any enemy ships destroyed?" Kreith felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was supposed to be an easy victory against primitive opponents. Instead, it was turning into a disaster. "Send a message to all ships. Begin withdrawal to rally point 7. We need to reassess the situation." As his battered fleet limped away from the battle zone, Kreith began to wonder if Admiral Vexstar had been wrong about humans being just legends. The tactical skill he had witnessed today was unlike anything he had ever seen. These were not primitive miners or desperate refugees. These were warriors who fought like they had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The damaged hegemony fleet limped back to their staging area like wounded animals seeking shelter. Sub-Admiral Kreith stood on his bridge looking at the casualty reports with growing horror. 47 ships destroyed, 31 more heavily damaged, and over 12,000 crew members dead or missing. All of this had happened in a single day of fighting against an enemy they could barely see. "Sub-Admiral," his tactical officer approached with another datapad. "We have completed analysis of the battle recordings." "Show me." The bridge's main display lit up with footage from the battle. Kreith watched his ships being systematically destroyed by enemies that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. The human vessels moved unlike anything he had ever seen. They were fast, unpredictable, and seemed to anticipate every move his forces made. "Computer analysis suggests the humans are using advanced cloaking technology," the tactical officer explained. "But their cloaking systems are far superior to anything in our databases." "How is that possible?" "Our intelligence report said humans were primitive." "Sir, these are not primitive tactics. The coordination required for simultaneous attacks across 7 star systems suggests a command structure that rivals our own." Kreith studied the recordings more carefully. In every engagement, the humans had known exactly where his ships would be and when. It was as if they could see the future. "Send a message to Admiral Vexstar. Tell him we need to speak immediately." On the Dominion's edge, Admiral Vexstar received Kreith's report with disbelief that quickly turned to anger. "You lost nearly 50 ships to ghost stories?" he demanded over the communication channel. Admiral, these are not ghost stories. The tactical displays clearly show advanced military vessels using technology we do not understand. Technology you do not understand, or technology you failed to identify properly? Kreith's image on the screen showed a tired officer pushed to his limits. Sir, I respectfully request that you review the battle recordings yourself. What we encountered today was not a ragtag group of pirates. This was a coordinated military operation. Vextar ended the communication and turned to Commander Krell, who had been standing quietly nearby. Well, Commander? You seem to have an opinion about everything involving these supposed humans. Krell stepped forward carefully. Admiral, perhaps we should consider the possibility that our intelligence about humans has been incomplete. Incomplete how? What if humans are not just legends? What if they are real, but their capabilities have been deliberately hidden or underestimated? Vextar's four arms moved in an agitated pattern. Commander, you are suggesting that an entire species has been hiding their true military strength. For years, why would they do such a thing? Perhaps because they were not strong enough to fight us directly. But now they are ready. The Admiral considered this possibility. It would explain many things that did not make sense otherwise. But it also meant that everything the hegemony thought they knew about humans was wrong. While the aliens debated what they were facing, the humans were already preparing their next move. In a hidden base inside a hollow asteroid, Ji-hoon was making final checks on his fighter ship. The vessel looked like it had been built from spare parts and scrap metal, but every system had been carefully modified for maximum performance. Ji-hoon was young for a combat pilot, but he had learned to fly by running supplies through alien patrol zones. Years of dodging enemy ships had given him skills that no military academy could teach. He was fearless in a way that only came from having nothing left to lose. All systems check out, he reported to Yuna, who was coordinating the mission. From the command center, Yuna was a communications specialist who had become much more than that. Her ability to hack alien computer systems and coordinate complex operations had made her invaluable to the human resistance. She could make enemy ships see things that were not there and miss things that were right in front of them. Target confirmed, she told Ji-hoon. Hegemony supply convoy, 12 ships plus escorts. They are carrying weapon components to the main fleet. Understood. Beginning approach. Ji-hoon's ship slipped out of the asteroid field like a shadow. His cloaking device was one of the best the humans had developed, combining stolen alien technology with improvements that made it nearly undetectable. The hegemony convoy was moving through what they thought was secure space. The escort ships maintained standard formation, their sensors sweeping for threats but finding nothing. Their crews were relaxed, confident that no enemy would dare attack such a well-defended target. They were wrong. Ji-hoon approached from above the convoy's plane of travel, using the blind spot that most species never thought to guard. His ship was small enough to be mistaken for space debris even if it was detected. When he was close enough, he armed his weapons and prepared for a suicide run that would either succeed brilliantly or kill him instantly. This is Ji-hoon to base, beginning attack run. He dropped his cloak and accelerated directly at the largest supply ship. His fighter was loaded with every explosive device the humans could fit into its small hull. If he could ram the supply ship and detonate his payload, the explosion would take out half the convoy. Alarm klaxons screamed throughout the hegemony ships as sensors detected the incoming fighter. Defensive weapons swiveled to target the small vessel, but Ji-hoon was already moving too fast and too erratically for them to lock on. Unknown fighter, change course immediately or you will be destroyed, came the warning over the communication channels. Ji-hoon's response was to fire every weapon his ship carried directly into the supply vessel's hull. The explosions tore through armor plating and began a chain reaction in the stored weapons inside, but instead of ramming the ship as everyone expected, Ji-hoon pulled up at the last second and flew directly over the convoy. As he passed each ship, he dropped small devices that attached themselves to the alien hulls. "What is he doing?" demanded the convoy commander. "All ships, destroy that fighter." Every escort ship opened fire at once. the space around Jehun's fighter filled with energy beams and missile trails. But the pilot seemed to know exactly where each shot would go before it was fired. He twisted and rolled through the deadly barrage like he was dancing, then Yuna's. Part of the plan activated. The devices Jehun had dropped were not bombs. They were advanced hacking modules that Yuna could use to take control of alien computer systems. As soon as they attached to the hegemony ships, she began her electronic assault. "I am in their network," she reported from the asteroid base. "Taking control of their weapon systems now." On the convoy ships, chaos erupted as their own weapons began turning against them. Gun turrets swiveled to target their sister ships. Missile launchers fired at their own vessels. The escort ships found themselves under attack from their own defenses. "What is happening?" the convoy commander shouted. "Why are our weapons firing on us?" His tactical officer was frantically trying to regain control of their systems. "Someone has hacked our computers. All weapon systems are compromised. How is that possible?" "Our security systems are the most advanced in the galaxy." Before anyone could answer, Jehun made his second pass through the convoy. This time he was not alone. Dozens of other human fighters had appeared from nowhere, their cloaking devices dropping simultaneously. Each fighter was small and looked fragile compared to the massive hegemony ships. But they moved with perfect coordination, striking weak points and critical systems with surgical precision. The convoy's defensive formation collapsed as ships collided with each other, their compromised control systems sending them on random courses. Some vessels tried to jump to hyperspace but found their navigation computers had been corrupted. Others attempted to fight back but discovered their weapons would only fire on their own allies. In less than 20 minutes, the entire convoy was either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. The human fighters vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving no trace except the wreckage behind them. When news of the convoy's destruction reached Admiral Vextar, he stood in silence. For several minutes, his officers waited nervously for his response. "How many ships did we lose this time?" he finally asked. 12 supply vessels and 8 escorts, sir. Complete loss of the convoy." "And human casualties?" "Unknown, sir, as always." Vextar walked to the large window on his bridge and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an enemy was making him look like a fool. An enemy that struck without warning and disappeared without trace. An enemy that seemed to know everything about hegemony tactics while revealing nothing about themselves. "Sir," Commander Krell approached carefully, "the crew is beginning to talk. They are saying that maybe humans really are as dangerous as the old stories claimed." "And what do you think, Commander?" "I think we may have awakened something that was sleeping. Something that we should have left alone." Admiral Vextar continued staring into space. Deep in his mind, he was beginning to accept a terrible possibility. Maybe humans were not just legends after all. Maybe they were something far more dangerous than any legend could describe. Admiral Vextar had reached his breaking point. 3 major defeats, over 100 ships lost, and an enemy that seemed to be playing games with his forces. The crew of the Dominion's Edge whispered in the corridors about ghosts and legends coming to life. Some even spoke of requesting transfers to safer assignments. The Admiral would not tolerate such talk. More importantly, he would not tolerate the humiliation of being defeated by creatures that might not even exist. "Prepare my personal battle group," he ordered Commander Krell. "I am taking direct command of this operation." "Sir, perhaps we should wait for reinforcements from the core worlds. The enemy has proven more capable than expected." Vextar's forearms moved in sharp, angry gestures. "Commander, I have been fighting wars since before you were born. I have conquered 17 star systems and defeated enemies with technology far superior to anything these humans could possess. I will not be scared away by ghost stories and clever tricks." "Yes, sir." "How many ships will you require?" 50 of our best. The newest battleships with the most advanced weapons and shields. I want ships that can take anything these humans can throw at us and still keep fighting. And the mission parameters? Find their main base, destroy everything, leave no survivors. Vextar paused, his black eyes reflecting the light from the tactical displays. It is time to end this legend once and for all. 3 days later, Admiral Vexstar led his personal fleet into the Rigel sector where intelligence suggested the humans had established a major stronghold. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was the pride of the hegemony navy. Its shields could deflect the energy output of a small star. Its weapons could crack the crust of a planet. Surely no collection of primitive humans could stand against such power. As his fleet moved through space in perfect formation, Vexstar felt his confidence returning. These were not the scattered patrol groups that had been defeated before. This was concentrated military might at its finest. Whatever tricks the humans had been using would not work against a force of this magnitude. "Admiral," his sensor officer reported, "we are detecting a single ship approaching our position." "Just one ship?" "Yes, sir. It appears to be a modified cruiser of unknown design. It is heading directly toward us." Vexstar studied the tactical display, a single ship approaching 50 of the most powerful vessels in the hegemony fleet. Either the humans were incredibly stupid or this was another trap. "Send a warning. Tell them to surrender immediately or be destroyed." The response came back within seconds. It was not a surrender. "This is Captain Singho of the human vessel. Defiant memory. You have entered human space without permission. Turn around and leave or face the consequences." Laughter echoed across the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. The idea that a single ship would threaten an entire battle fleet was so absurd that even the usually serious hegemony officers could not help themselves. "Captain Singho," Vexstar replied over the communication channel, "you are facing 50 battleships with enough firepower to destroy a planet. What possible consequences do you think you can deliver? You are about to find out." Singho was not what most people expected when they thought of a starship captain. He was quiet, thoughtful, and preferred to solve problems with his mind rather than his fists. But when he had been forced to fight, he had proven to be one of the most dangerous tacticians in human space. His ship, the Defiant Memory, looked like it had been built in a scrapyard. The hull was patched in dozens of places, and the weapons were clearly salvaged from other vessels. But appearances could be deceiving. Every system on the ship had been modified and improved by human engineers who understood that in a fight against superior numbers, every advantage mattered. "All stations, prepare for combat," Sungho announced to his crew. "Remember, we do not need to destroy them all. We just need to prove that they can be beaten." Admiral Vexstar watched the human ship approach with growing irritation. The vessel was not even trying to use evasive maneuvers. It flew straight toward his fleet like it had no fear at all. "All ships, target the human vessel, fire when ready." 50 battleships opened fire at once. The space between the fleets lit up with energy. Beams, missile trails, and projectile weapons. Enough firepower to level a city focused on one small ship. The Defiant Memory disappeared in a blinding explosion that could be seen from light years away. "Target destroyed," reported the tactical officer. "Confirmed. No debris larger than a few meters. The human ship has been completely vaporized." Admiral Vexstar nodded with satisfaction. So much for the legendary human fighting spirit. Spread the fleet into search formation, find their base, and finish this. But as his ships began to move into new positions, something impossible happened. The Defiant Memory appeared again, completely undamaged, directly behind his flagship. "How is that possible?" Vexstar demanded. "We destroyed that ship." "Unknown, sir. Sensors confirm it is the same vessel. No damage detected." Before anyone could react, the human ship opened fire. But instead of the primitive weapons the Admiral expected, brilliant beams of energy struck his flagship's shields with devastating force. The Eternal Dominion shuddered under the impact, and warning alarms began to sound. "Shields down to 60%, his tactical officer reported in shock. "Sir, those weapons are more powerful than our own." "Impossible. Return fire." The flagship's massive gun turrets swiveled to target the human vessel, but the Defiant Memory was already moving. It accelerated with speed that should have been impossible. For a ship of its size, sliding around the edge of the hegemony formation like it was dancing dot as it moved, it continued firing. Each shot was precisely aimed at critical systems on the alien ships. Shield generators exploded in showers of sparks. Weapon ports went dark as their power systems failed. The defiant memory was not trying to destroy the hegemony ships. It was surgically disabling them. "All ships, converge on the human vessel," Vexstar ordered. "Surround it and fire everything." His fleet tried to follow the order, but the human ships seemed to know what they were going to do before they did it. Every time the hegemony vessels moved to trap it, the defiant memory was already somewhere else. Worse, the human ship began to multiply. "Sir, I am reading multiple contacts," the sensor officer called out. "The human ship appears to be in 12 different locations at once." Admiral Vexstar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 12 identical images of the defiant memory were weaving through his fleet, each one firing with deadly accuracy. His ships were taking heavy damage while their return fire seemed to pass right through the human vessels. "It has to be some kind of illusion," he said, "holograms or sensor ghosts." "Sir, the damage to our ships is very real. We have lost main power on 6 vessels and weapons are offline on 15 more." Captain Soong smiled grimly as he watched the hegemony fleet stumble around trying to fight enemies that were not where they appeared to be. The defiant memory was using a combination of advanced holographic projectors and quantum displacement, technology that made it appear to be in multiple places simultaneously, but the real secret was much simpler. Soong-ho had studied every available recording of hegemony battle tactics. He knew how they moved, how they thought, and how they reacted to threats. By the time the aliens saw his ship and decided to fire, he was already moving to where he knew they would not expect him to be. "Enemy flagship is attempting to withdraw," his tactical officer reported. "Let them go," Soong-ho replied. "We have made our point." Admiral Vexstar watched in humiliation as the human ship ceased its attack and simply sat motionless in space. The defiant memory had disabled nearly half his fleet without taking any damage in return. His most advanced battleships, vessels that had conquered star systems, had been made to look like toys. "Sir," Commander Krell said quietly, "the human ship is sending another message. Put it through." Captain Soong-ho's voice came through the speakers calm and confident. "Admiral Vexstar, you came here to destroy a legend. Instead, you have learned that some legends are real. Take your ships and leave human space. This is your only warning." The communication ended. Leaving silence on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Vexstar stared at the human ship through the main viewer. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear, not fear of death, but fear of the unknown. Fear of an enemy that could do impossible things and make them look easy. "Sir," his navigation officer asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Vexstar continued staring at the defiant memory. The human ship sat there like it was daring him to try again, but he had seen enough. Whatever these humans were, they were not the primitive creatures he had expected. "Set course for the staging area," he said finally. "All ships withdraw." As the hegemony fleet limped away from the battle, Admiral Vexstar began to understand that everything he thought he knew about humans had been wrong. They were not legends because they were mythical. They were legends because they could do things that seemed mythical to everyone else, and that made them far more dangerous than any normal enemy could ever be. Admiral Vexstar sat alone in his private quarters aboard the Eternal Dominion, staring at intelligence reports that made no sense. His fleet was in full retreat, nursing wounds that should have been impossible for any enemy to inflict. Half his ships were running on backup power. A quarter of his weapons were offline. Oh, because of one human vessel. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was what his intelligence officers had discovered about humans. While he was busy being humiliated in battle, Commander Krell entered quietly, carrying a datapad with information that would change everything. "Admiral, you asked for a complete analysis of human capabilities. The results are disturbing. Show me." Krell activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Images appeared showing the wreckage of destroyed hegemony ships, tactical analyses of human attacks, and most shocking of all, biological data about the human species itself. Admiral, we captured several human prisoners during our early raids. Our science teams have been studying them for weeks. And? Humans are not what we thought they were. They are not primitive at all. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Vexstar leaned forward in his chair. Explain. Their homeworld, Earth, was not just a normal planet. According to our analysis, it was one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy. Extreme weather, deadly predators, natural disasters, and diseases that would kill most species in hours. The display showed images reconstructed from human data files. Massive storms that could level cities. Creatures with teeth and claws that could tear through metal. Volcanoes that could block out the sun. Oceans filled with monsters that could swallow ships whole. For millions of years, humans survived on this death world by becoming something that other species never had to become. They became the ultimate predators. Continue. Look at their biology, Admiral. Their bones are denser than ours. Their muscles are stronger. Their healing rate is 3 times faster than any hegemony citizen. They can survive without food for weeks, without water for days, and they can function normally in environments that would kill us. Vexstar studied the biological data with growing unease. Human children were born more durable than most alien adults. Human soldiers could march for days without rest. Human pilots could withstand acceleration forces that would crush other species. But that is just their physical capabilities, Krell continued. Their mental abilities are even more frightening. How so? Humans do not think like other species. Most civilized races develop technology slowly and carefully. They build on established knowledge and follow proven methods. Humans do something completely different. The display showed examples of human engineering. Ships built from salvaged parts that outperformed vessels designed by the galaxy's best engineers. Weapons cobbled together from scrap metal that could punch through advanced armor. Computers programmed by people who had never seen the original code but somehow made them work better than before. They do not just use technology, Admiral. They reinvent it. They take our own weapons and make them more powerful. They steal our ships and make them faster. They study our tactics and find weaknesses we never knew existed. Vexstar was beginning to understand why his forces had suffered such devastating defeats. They had not been fighting a normal enemy. They had been fighting a species that had evolved to overcome impossible odds through pure, stubborn determination. There is more, Krell said grimly. We now know why humans seemed to vanish without trace after their homeworld was destroyed. They did not vanish, they scattered. Exactly. When Earth died, the survivors spread across the galaxy and began learning everything they could about every species they encountered. For years they have been watching us, studying us, preparing for the day when they would be strong enough to fight back. The display showed a map of human activity across dozens of star systems. They had been everywhere, seeing everything, taking notes on hegemony strengths and weaknesses. Every battle tactic, every ship design, every weapon system had been cataloged and analyzed. Admiral, they knew we were coming before we decided to invade. They have been preparing for this war longer than we have been planning it. Vexstar stood up and walked to the window of his quarters. Outside, he could see his damaged fleet struggling to maintain formation. Ships that had once been symbols of hegemony power now looked fragile and vulnerable. How many humans are there? Unknown. Sir, our estimates range from a few million to several billion. They are scattered so widely that getting an accurate count is impossible, and their industrial capacity, also unknown. They do not build factories like other species. They use asteroid mining, salvage operations, and mobile construction platforms. They can set up production facilities anywhere and move them when threatened. What about their command structure? This is perhaps the most disturbing discovery, Admiral. Humans do not have a single government or military hierarchy. They operate as independent cells that somehow coordinate perfectly without central command. Vexstar turned back to face Krell. That is impossible. No military force can function without centralized control. Human military forces can, sir. Each group makes its own decisions, but they all work toward the same goals. When one cell is destroyed, the others continue fighting without pause. There is no central point of failure we can target. The Admiral sat back down, feeling older than his years. So we are fighting an enemy that is physically superior, technologically adaptive, strategically brilliant, and impossible to destroy by conventional means. Yes, sir. And they have been preparing for this conflict longer than we have. Yes, sir. Vexstar was quiet for several minutes, processing the implications of what he had learned. The hegemony had built their empire by conquering species that followed predictable patterns. They would attack the enemy capital, destroy their government, and force surrender. But humans had no capital to attack and no government to destroy. Commander, there is something else. Something you have not told me yet, Krell hesitated. Sir, there is one more thing. We discovered it when we tried to use biological weapons against the human prisoners. What happened? The weapons did not work. Human immune systems adapted to counter the toxins within hours, but that is not the strangest part. Continue. One of the prisoners, a female scientist named Nare, was exposed to a concentrated dose of our most lethal bioweapon. It should have killed her in minutes. And she survived. Not only survived, but showed no lasting effects. When our science team questioned her, she said that humans on Earth had been exposed to similar toxins for thousands of years. Their bodies had learned to fight off almost any biological attack. Vexstar felt a chill run through his body. You are telling me that humans are immune to our biological weapons? Not immune, but highly resistant. And they learn quickly. Each exposure makes them stronger against future attacks. The Admiral stood up again and began pacing around the room. So they cannot be poisoned, they cannot be easily killed, they cannot be centrally defeated, and they get stronger every time we attack them. Yes, sir. And they have been studying us for years, learning our weaknesses while hiding their own strengths. Yes, sir. Vexstar stopped pacing and stared at the tactical display showing the current position of both fleets. The human forces were scattered across dozens of systems, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. His own forces were concentrated in one location, making them easy targets. Commander Krell, I need you to prepare a message for the High Command. What should the message say, sir? Admiral Vexstar looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in that darkness, human eyes were watching his every move. Human minds were planning his destruction. Human hands were building weapons designed specifically to kill his people. Tell them that humans are not legends, he said quietly. Tell them that humans are real, and they are more dangerous than any legend could ever be. Tell them that we have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. And our recommendations. Sir, tell them to send every ship in the fleet. Tell them to bring our most advanced weapons and our best soldiers. Tell them that we are not fighting a normal enemy. Vexstar paused, considering his next words carefully. Tell them we are fighting the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy, and it is hunting us. Admiral Vexstar's message to High Command had been simple and desperate. Send everything. Send every ship, every weapon, every soldier the hegemony could spare. The response had been swift. 300 additional warships were coming along, with planet-killer weapons and the most elite troops in the Empire, but Vexstar was no longer confident that even this massive force would be enough. He stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the final preparations for what he knew would be the decisive battle. Around his flagship, the largest fleet in hegemony history moved in perfect formation. Over 400 ships stretched across space like a metal constellation. Admiral, Subcommander Zenth reported, all battle groups are in position. We are ready to begin the final assault. Target status? Long-range sensors have located the primary human base. It appears to be built inside a large asteroid in the Proxima system. Intelligence estimates suggest this is their main command center. Vexstar studied the tactical display showing the target location. After months of defeats and humiliation, they had finally found what they believed to be the heart of human resistance. One massive strike would end this war and restore hegemony. Dominance. Sir, Commander Krell approached with obvious concern, I must advise caution. This could be another trap. Commander, we are bringing 400 ships to destroy one asteroid base. Even if it is a trap, we have enough firepower to handle anything the humans can throw at us. Sir, with respect, we have said that before. Vexstar asks. Four arms moved in sharp, irritated gestures. This time is different. This time we are not underestimating them. We know what they are capable of, and we are prepared. But as his fleet approached the Proxima system, Vexstar began to notice things that made him uncomfortable. The human base was not hidden. It sat openly in space, clearly visible to his sensors. There were no defensive positions, no weapon platforms, no signs of preparation for battle. Sir, his sensor officer reported, I am detecting massive energy. Readings from the asteroid. Whatever is inside there, it is much larger than we expected. How much larger? The asteroid appears to be mostly hollow, sir. Internal scans suggest a structure that could house millions of people. Admiral Vexstar felt something cold settle in his stomach. Millions of people meant this was not just a military base. This was a city. A human city that had been built in secret while his forces searched the galaxy for scattered refugees. Sir, we are receiving a communication from the asteroid. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and confident. It belonged to Commander G1, the human officer who had been coordinating resistance operations from the beginning, Admiral Vexstar. You have brought an impressive fleet to our home. Unfortunately, you have made a serious mistake. The only mistake was not bringing enough ships to glass this entire system, Vexstar replied. You still do not understand what you are facing. You think this is our main base? You think destroying this asteroid will end human resistance. You are wrong on both counts. Then enlighten me. This is not our main base, Admiral. This is just one of dozens of cities we have built throughout the galaxy. And we are not the scattered refugees you think we are. As if to prove her point, space around the hegemony fleet suddenly filled with ships. They appeared from everywhere at once. From behind asteroids, from the shadow of planets, from the dark between stars. Hundreds of human vessels materialized. As their cloaking devices deactivated simultaneously, but these were not the small, improvised ships the aliens had fought before. These were purpose-built warships, sleek and deadly, designed specifically to kill hegemony vessels. Each ship bore the scars of previous battles, but they had been repaired and improved with lessons learned from every encounter. Impossible, Vexstar whispered. Where did they get so many ships? His question was answered when he looked more closely at the human fleet. Many of the vessels were clearly built from salvaged hegemony technology. The humans had been taking every ship they destroyed, every weapon they captured, every piece of equipment they could salvage and turning it into tools of war. All ships, Jiwan's voice continued over the communication channel, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to surrender. This is your only chance. Laughter echoed across the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Even surrounded, the hegemony fleet still outnumbered the humans. This would be a real battle at last, not the hit-and-run tactics they had faced before. Human Commander, Vexstar replied, you may have more ships than we expected, but you are still outnumbered. We have 400 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Yes, you do. And we have been studying every one of them for months. Before Vexstar could ask what she meant, the battle began. The human ships moved like nothing the Admiral had ever seen. Instead of attacking in formation, each vessel seemed to know exactly what every other ship was doing. They flowed around the hegemony fleet like water, striking weak points and avoiding return. Fire with impossible precision. But the most shocking thing was how effectively they fought. Every human ship seemed to know the exact weaknesses of its hegemony opponents. They targeted shield generators with pinpoint accuracy. They hit weapon systems at their most vulnerable points. They exploited design flaws that even the hegemony engineers had forgotten existed. How do they know our specifications so precisely? Vextar demanded. His tactical officer provided the terrifying answer. Sir, analysis suggests they have complete technical documentation for every ship class in our fleet. That is impossible. Those documents are classified at the highest levels. Sir, remember that humans have been infiltrating our society for years. They have had access to our databases, our communications, our most secret facilities. Admiral Vextar realized with growing horror that the humans had not just been studying hegemony tactics. They had been stealing hegemony secrets. Every battle plan, every ship design, every weapon specification had been copied and analyzed. The humans knew more about hegemony technology than most hegemony officers did. As the battle raged around him, Vextar watched his supposedly superior fleet being systematically dismantled. Human ships that should have been destroyed by single hits absorbed massive damage and kept fighting. Hegemony vessels that should have been unstoppable found their most advanced systems failing at critical moments. Sir, his communication officer reported, we are receiving damage reports from throughout the fleet. Over 100 ships have been disabled or destroyed, and human losses? Difficult to assess, sir. Their ships appear to be much more durable than our intelligence suggested. Through the chaos of battle, Commander Jiwan's voice came over the communication channels again. But this time she was not speaking to the hegemony fleet. She was coordinating with other human commanders. Taeyang, take your group and hit their command ship from the port side. Seungho, I need you to disable their flagship's engines. Munho, are your special packages ready? Ready and deployed, came Minho's reply. Their shields will not protect them from these. Vextar did not understand what the humans were planning until it was too late. Throughout the battle, Minho had been placing devices on hegemony ships just as he had done with the mining charges months ago. But these were not simple explosives. When Minho triggered his devices, every hegemony ship in the fleet lost power. Simultaneously, engines went dark, weapons shut down, life support systems switched to emergency backup. In seconds, the most powerful fleet in hegemony history became helpless metal drifting in space. What happened? Vextar demanded as his own ship went dark around him. Electromagnetic pulse weapons, his chief engineer reported on battery power. They have disabled every electronic system in the fleet. In the silence that followed, Commander Jiwan's voice came through on emergency frequencies. Admiral Vextar, your fleet is now completely helpless. Your ships have no power, no weapons, no ability to escape. We could destroy every one of you without resistance. Then why do you not do it? Because we are not like you. We do not kill helpless enemies. But we will not let you leave to threaten other worlds. As emergency power slowly restored basic systems throughout the hegemony fleet, Vextar realized the full scope of his defeat. The humans had not just won the battle. They had captured his entire fleet intact. Your ships and crews will be treated according to the laws of war, Jiwan continued. You will be given food, medical care, and safe quarters. In return, this invasion ends now. Admiral Vextar sat in his command chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his ambitions. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across his bridge as his crew worked to restore basic functions. Sir, Commander Krell approached quietly. What are your orders? Vextar looked around at his defeated fleet, then at the human ships maintaining position around them. The vessels that had seemed so small and fragile at the beginning of this war now looked like the predators they truly were. Commander, send a message to High Command. Tell them that the invasion has failed. Tell them that humans are not legends or ghost stories. Tell them that humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and we have given them every reason to destroy us. And our status, sir? We are prisoners of war. And considering what we tried to do to them, we are fortunate to be alive. As Vexstar was escorted to detention facilities aboard a hum,